show. Leger Douzable joins us right now, former NFL player. He was a defensive end at UCF in his college days, now a college football and NFL analyst with CBS Sports HQ, ESPN, and Sirius XM, and a good friend of mine. Leger, what's up, my man?
Richard, how you been, my guy? Hope everything's going well.
So good to catch up with you. I want to start. We hear all the time guys talk about what it's like when you hear your name called on draft day. We know that this is a life-changing day that's coming up, but you experienced it a different way. Certainly wanted to be drafted, believed you were an NFL player, believed you were going to get a chance. You didn't. You signed as an undrafted free agent. Tell me what that was like to go through and not hear your name called, but ultimately get that opportunity.
Yeah, Richard, so it was a little different than the process this year currently, because when I came out, the draft was only 2 days. It was at Saturday and Sunday. So they did rounds 1 through 3 on Saturday and then rounds 4 through 7 on Sunday. So I heard from a few teams that liked me in the third, but from most teams, I heard it was going to be 4th, 5th round, right? So I kind of knew, there was probably not a good chance I'm going on the first day, but a really good chance the second day. So you're sitting as all these teams are picking, and, again, people think that, day 1 of the draft and day 2 and day 3 is long. Just imagine that only being split up in 2 days. So you're sitting there waiting, and you see names go across the ticker, and yet your phone doesn't ring. And then around the 7th round is when teams started calling me, and one team told me they were going to still take me in the 7th round, and that ultimately didn't happen either, Rich. So really almost like every team, I want to say all 32 teams wanted me as an undrafted free agent. So then it goes to me looking at the rosters, seeing who got drafted in my draft class, seeing what was going to be the best opportunity. I actually turned down more money from one team to go to another team just because I thought it was going to be a better opportunity for me to make the team. So that literally fueled my fire. Anybody that knows me, I'm a hard worker. Nobody was going to outwork me. But not getting drafted when I was told most likely I was going to go somewhere between the 3rd and the 5th really fueled my fire, and it propelled me to a 10-year career. Because even when I started getting a name for myself, I always remembered, even the team that I was currently playing for, in their mind, I wasn't good enough to draft.
So there was a chip on your shoulder that stayed there for the entire time you were in the league.
Oh, 100%. Like I said, even when I, kind of solidified who I was in the league, I still remember, y'all didn't think I was good enough to play. You didn't think I was good enough to play. None of you guys took a chance on me and drafted me. So, again, as an undrafted free agent, for people that don't know, Richard, that's almost being like a walk-on in college, right? So you don't always get the best reps. And you have to take full advantage of your opportunity, because a first rounder or a second or third rounder, they might have an opportunity to make mistakes. They will find somebody to come in if you continue to make mistakes as an undrafted free agent. So I knew I didn't have a lot of chance for mistakes. I asked a lot of questions, right? I stayed after, did extra work, and every opportunity I got, I made sure I went full throttle.
If you want to see Leger's most recent NFL mock draft, you can do that at CBSSports.com, or if you want to go to his Twitter page, it's Leger Douzable. I'm going to spell it because I know people mess your name up all the time. Leger, Leger, Douzable, Douzable. You can find that and check out his full mock draft. Everybody agrees that Caleb Williams is going number 1, so that's not even really worth talking about. But of the 5 quarterbacks that most mock drafts have going in the first round, talking about Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels and Drake May and J.J. McCarthy, and then some have got Michael Penix going, some have got Bo Nix going. But out of those 5, 6 guys, I'm not so much worried about right now. 5 years from now, which of those 5 or 6 will have been the best quarterback in the NFL?
Ooh, that's a really good question, Richard, because we know wherever you get drafted to matters, right? The situation matters. The team you're getting drafted to, is it set up for you to have success? And I will say this, I can't remember in recent memory a number 1 pick going into a situation like Caleb Williams, right? But to me, it's going to be a tie. I'm going to say I think Jaden Daniels or Michael Penix Jr. will be the best quarterback when it's said and done in this draft. And I say that because, to me, Jaden Daniels is the most dynamic quarterback in this draft. We know what he can do with his legs. But, Richard, what isn't talked about enough is his pocket presence, his footwork in the pocket, the calmness of his feet in the pocket, right? And then the growth that he had. I don't think there's ever been a college player that's had the type of growth that Jaden Daniels has had since he left Arizona State to where he is right now. And I think with Cliff Kingsbury, that's tailor-made for his skill set. And I think Michael Penix Jr., in my mock, I had him going to the Raiders, which I think is a perfect fit because right now he doesn't have to start, even though I think he'll push Gardner Minshew to start this year. And that's a team with Devontae Adams that wants to throw the ball down the field. And there was no better deep ball passer in college football, Richard, than Michael Penix Jr. You talk about throwing with accuracy. And to me, he processes better. So when I look at young quarterbacks coming into the league, where they struggle a lot, Richard, is processing. When you see Michael Penix Jr.'s tape, to me, at the quarterback position, he had the best tape in 2023. Now, a lot of people will say, how can you say that when Jaden Daniels won the Heisman? Jaden Heisman had the most highlight reels, right, and was the most dynamic. That's why he won the Heisman. But if you're talking about just quarterback play, I think Michael Penix Jr. had the best tape out of all these quarterbacks in 2023.
We talked about this yesterday. One of the things with Jaden Daniels, he takes so many hits. How do they coach that out of him? You don't want to coach the competitiveness out of him.
Correct.
You don't want to coach the fire out of him. But the example I used yesterday was next week and the week after are more important than converting this 3rd and 7.
And that's 100% what you say. You sit the young man down and say, we love the competitive nature. For one, you're not the biggest guy, right? So you got to be careful. The hits in the NFL are going to be 10 times worse than the hits in college, even though you did play in the SEC. And like you say, Richard, we need you next week, the week after, right? That 1 or 2 extra yards that you're fighting for, it's not worth you potentially getting hit. So they have to really ram that into his head, and it's going to be hard for young players. Because like you said, Richard, you don't want to coach the competitive nature out of guys, and guys just feel like, I'm going to get these extra 2 yards because I'm that competitive. But you got to make business decisions in the NFL. It's more about the team and less about you. And if you're hurt, the team is struggling because you're hurt. So you got to put yourself to the side and think about the team when it comes to that scenario and say, you know what, I'm going to slide here. You know what, those 2 extra yards don't matter. I'm going to just step out of bounds. That's what you have to coach into this kid's head.
Visiting with Leger Douzable, ESPN college football analyst with CBS, ESPN, and Sirius XM. Leger, what's the best position group in this draft?
Without a doubt, it's offensive tackle. Now, I know people will say, well, this is a deep receiver class. But, again, to me, I think there could be upwards to 8 guys taken in the first round at offensive tackle. It's a really deep class. And I wouldn't be surprised, Richard, if we saw maybe 5 or 6 go in the first 15. There's rumors that now J.C. Latham could be the number 5 overall pick to the Chargers. And, Richard, it actually makes the most sense. Yes, Joe Alt may be the most complete tackle in this draft class, but he's a left tackle. They already have a perennial all-pro tackle in Rashawn Slater. And it's not as easy as people think to make that change from left tackle to right tackle because it's essentially you doing everything backwards, which you've been taught to do for this whole last season. So J.C. Latham is already at right tackle. We know Jim Harbaugh. He's a physical-minded coach. He wants to bring physicality to that line of scrimmage, and he wants to run the football. There's no better run-blocking tackle in this draft than J.C. Latham. So he's a guy that could go 5. That means that Joe Alt go 7. Does Olu Fashanu go, pick number 10? The Saints need an offensive tackle. The Giants could potentially get an offensive tackle. The Chicago Bears could get an offensive tackle. This is a draft class. If you need an offensive tackle, you're going to get a day 1 starter in this draft, especially in the first round.
So positions that get paid in the NFL, right? We know the quarterbacks get paid. We know those left tackles or offensive tackles, if you want to maybe not be so specific, get paid. On the defensive side, who can go get the quarterback? Is Dallas Turner the clear-cut best edge rusher in this draft?
No, there's a caveat to that. I say Latu is the best defensive edge prospect in this draft, but the caveat is the medical, right? We know he had the neck fusion 3 years ago now. He's had a clean bill of health for 2 years, but that may scare a lot of teams anytime you're talking about the neck. Latu, Richard, just has a veteran-like game. Like, I haven't seen a pass rusher come into the league and be as polished pass rushing as I've seen Latu's game. Like, it's ridiculous, Richard. It's almost like he's a sensei in regards to the amount of different pass rush moves he has. Like, as soon as you take something away, he beats you with something else. I have not seen a rookie come in this polished as a pass rusher. But to be honest with you, Richard, my number one defensive prospect is Byron Murphy. And we've seen an evolution the last few years of defensive tackles getting paid what their counterparts on the edge are getting paid. And Byron Murphy creates havoc up the middle. And, Richard, that's what quarterbacks hate, that up-the-middle pressure. He wreaks havoc in the run game. He is relentless, great lateral quickness, and he's just a naturally good pass rusher. So, to me, he's the best overall prospect. If Latu had a clean bill of health and you weren't worried about him getting hurt, he would be my edge one, and then Dallas Turner.
Leger, great stuff, man. I wish we had more time. I got so many more questions, but we are up against a break.